Okay, sorry about the delay. Had some issues there, but we are good to go.
Is there first fence or anything, nothing in the town?
Well, understand that it starts with,
You get a
you're
warning.
given a warning at 10 a.m.
So that's your first offense, the warning.
For
That's the
anything.
No, the warning.
You get the warning here first.
Okay, so that's not the first offense.
If you respond to the notice, then there's no offense at all.
There's no permit fee now, we got rid of the permit fee, so it's free. We added, basically, even if they're not part of this, like if they wanna have a duck, they can get a special use permit, basically, obviously. The building department doesn't have issues, their neighbors don't have issues, it's fine, as long as they do what they're supposed to, they're fine. Obviously, if you're over 7 acres, you don't need this, if you're a farm, you don't need this. I think everybody's covered here, I have heard a lot from the public that were concerned I can't have my tick right now, they can.
Yeah. Where's your 5 acre?
The mistake was on page 3, was, number 2. Number 2 should have said it should say 7 acre, it was a typo.
Oh, here, right there, yeah, there was another one.
So basically, it kind of covers everybody, we got rid of the permit fees. Hopefully we don't have any issues really, I mean, it's not like we're gonna go out chasing people for whatever, you know? But, I don't know, I just think it allows everybody to have what they want.
This shows the entire section saying roosters, ducks, geese, etc. is prohibited. This strikes that completely. Now, the law is a chicken law, so it doesn't have anything to do with any ducks or geese.
Right, but it says they can't have that, but then it says you can get a special use permit, so you can have it. So in other
What
words,
about
that's-
roosters?
No, roosters you can't, unless you got,
That's not what this says.
oh, she was supposed to take out the word
Second
roosters.
page, number 5.
I had roosters out of there, Rebecca, remember? Hold on, let me look at it. Well, I mean.
I can assure
It says
you
keeping
that
ducks,
people don't want their
geese,
neighbors
Right,
having
wait a minute,
roosters
did you
waking
take,
them up
no,
at
but I
4
think,
o'clock.
hold on, where are you looking at here? I think
Okay, I can assure you the money chart.
Subsection 83 on the first page.
Exactly, we put it in a different spot, didn't we? All right, let's see, where are you?
83.
Keeping ducks, geese, swans, yeah, roosters, it doesn't say rooster in there.
Where?
Keeping ducks, geese, swans, turkeys, no, roosters was taken out.
Roosters on the second page.
Roosters is on the
And
second
it's
page.
struck,
Correct.
it's crossed out.
Do you also have the clean copy? Because online is the clean copy. Are you only looking at the
I'm
track?
looking at the red one.
Yeah, but roosters was somewhere else, didn't we have roosters somewhere? We were just we changed that
I
around,
don't
so
see
that.
anything about ducks. The only reference to any of that stuff is number 5, and it's struck.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we took it out of there,
This current version is
Rebecca.
nothing.
I remember taking it out of there, but we were supposed to add it somewhere else. Was it added somewhere else?
Hold on, I'm looking
The reason why I
at,
took it out of there is so it wasn't part of a special use
Oh,
permit.
no, here it is.
You say it's back, right?
Take it up here.
Yep, it's back in, right? Yeah, it's in there.
Together with the special, it still doesn't say anything about roosters.
no, I was about to say, it says ducks, geese are permitted with a special use.
Right, but we had that, you were gonna put roosters under another line, because we can't take, that has to be.
I'm looking at, so Kelly sent me your comments, and then I made some tweaks.
Right, because we discussed the rooster thing.
So I'm looking at.
Obviously, if you have over 7 acres, you can have a rooster, but you can't if you don't. I mean, I asked my neighbors, I'll get rid of them, but I'm a legal farm, but I still, you don't want to piss off.
Well, understand something, if somebody has something, And none of their neighbors.
Right,
check.
no
We're
one's
not
gonna
gonna be
care.
aware
No,
of it.
right.
So the section says keeping ducks, geese, swans, turkey, or any other species of bird or fowl which are not traditionally confined to a cage inside a dwelling may be permitted with a special use zoning
Right.
permit. So roosters wouldn't be in that section because we wouldn't want roosters on
Right,
these
but where is
properties.
roosters in here now?
It's not in there.
We gotta add it.
Why, you want a clear prohibition on rooster? Because I
Yeah,
think
well,
that,
yes.
okay,
Because a person with 1 acre could have roosters, it's not that if you have 3, you know what I mean, that would be definitely a problem.
okay.
Obviously, if nobody complains, we're not gonna care.
Right. I have 2 in my neighborhood.
And if you own over
So
7
far?
acres,
They have not woken me up, so I don't care.
they don't wake me up, they can crow all day, right?
I get up early.
Oh, so you're a redneck, but they don't.
No?
You
Most
have
of-
to say that.
Most
in
of
there
the year,
without
I'm
a
up
problem.
before they're crowing, and they're not next door, they're far enough away that I hear them when I'm out
Right.
in the morning, but
Yeah.
they're not, you know, they're not next door and waking me up at 4:30 in the morning in July.
Okay, so
Right.
you wanna
Other
wait
than-
till-
All right,
But other than having roosters, if you're over 7 acres, you can have anything, but this allows you to have almost anything anyway, you just might have to get. a
so what are we
special
gonna do with this? Do we want her to modify it, give
Yeah,
us a
let's
clean
table
copy,
it
and then
and then let her
we'll, and then at the next meeting, we'll set a public hearing? Sure.
You don't wanna set it?
No.
Or do you want me to just add
Just add that,
that
it's what I'm saying.
roosters are
There would be
prohibited?
2.
Yeah, let's set a public hearing.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Let's get it done.
So, I wanna make sure that we.
All right, so.
So, on, where it says the keeping of ducks, I'm gonna add roosters are not, whoops.
Can I just
But
add-
you're not, but it says, it doesn't that line say you have to get a special
Can I just
permit?
But I'm gonna add after that, roosters are not.
Right,
7 acres?
that's why we took it out, to say you can't have roosters.
She will give you a clean copy.
If you're under 7 acres.
She'll give you a clean copy.
Yeah,
If she
just,
doesn't
So-
pester her tomorrow, but she should give you.
but I think everybody can have what they want.
So, just so that everyone understands though, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody here understands, is that if, so Ag and Markets law, when it comes to what is a farm, you can have multiple properties reach that acreage requirement. So you could technically have a property under 7 acres as part of a larger farm operation.
If they're the farmers, doesn't matter.
But if they're a farm, yes, this would be exempt under Ag and Markets, because this
That's the
gets the
thing, if they're
preferential
covered under
treatment
ags and
under,
markets,
yeah.
this entire law is irrelevant, so.
It's not the same name,
Yeah.
because, yeah, I deal with Ag and
That's
Markets
what-
quite a bit, it's the same operation, you do have to show that they're financially connected, but
correct.
yeah.
Okay.
Right, and as I said, if they are protected by ags and market, then this law is irrelevant because they're exempt. by law,
Correct.
so. Okay, so do I have a motion to set the public hearing of the modified?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye, all opposed, carried. Next, I have the preliminary budget, and we're setting the public hearing for November 6th. I will remind you of the state statute. It has to be passed by the 20th, which is actually our second meeting in November. I thought it would be a good idea to have the public hearing on the 6th. That way, if things come up at that meeting that
Okay.
want us to change it, we have time to change it before we actually accept it at the 20th.
So we're just accepting, receiving it. or
Correct.
We're-
No,
right,
accept and
exactly.
receive.
That's
Yeah.
all we're doing.
That's
Got
all.
it.
And setting the public hearing for
Correct.
November 6th. Do I have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, all opposed? Carried.
Who made the motion?
Richie did.
Okay, thank you.
The director of parks. Okay, she's asking us to approve, Fleet Feet Poughkeepsie using our park on the 30th for a 5K run fundraiser for Duchess Outrage and waiving the 250 fee because it's a nonprofit having a fundraiser. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Kevin.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. Next up, you have a letter in your folder, from Anthony Marinero asking for, consideration for appointing him to our planning board. vacancy as an alternate.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right,
he'd be an alternate.
all right, that concludes the agenda. Do we have any further comments or discussion from the town board? Anything from the town attorney?
You're working on the Airbnb stuff.
Yes, I'll
You
get
guys
that out to you.
traffic in Clinton? An Airbnb on the 1800s house this weekend. They came from Cape Cod, the house went on fire, the husband ran out the front door, called 911. Both the wife and son died. You know, it's basically like a hotel, an 1800 house, doesn't have any egress windows, doesn't have ladders to get out, doesn't have anything. It's a real tragedy.
So, what I did is I went through short-term rental laws in other towns and prepared this kind of a summary. It gives you a list of the various issues that are dealt with and for our consideration and things to think about. This is not a suggestion of what our law should be. It's my attempt to outline the various kinds of issues that need to be considered when we do create the law. I thought it would be good for you to just look at it and think about what you want. I'll go through them quickly just to explain what the different issues are. First is the concept of hosted versus unhosted. A hosted Airbnb is essentially an accessory use to a single family house, right? Somebody lives in a house and they rent out a bedroom, they rent out an apartment on the property, they live there and rent out some portion of it. That's what hosted means. Unhosted means a single family home, but somebody owns that house and rents out the whole house. They don't live there. That's the difference between the two, okay? Options related to that. They go across the board in different towns. Some you allow it to be only used as an accessory use, meaning somebody has to live on the premises. They have to be the primary person and they're renting out a piece of it. That some towns only allow that. Others also allow it for unhosted along with single family homes. People, sometimes they limit the number that's one owner can own and operate in the town as an unhosted, for example. Others say that you can run an unhosted, but the owner has to be a town resident. I think that the idea there behind it is that if there are issues, we know where they live and we can contact them, and they don't live in, I don't know, Des Moines or something like that. Others require unhosted ones to have some kind of a local manager available by phone to address concerns and complaints. So let's say the owner lives in, I don't know, Suffolk County, but he has somebody he pays to manage the property up here and is available by a cell phone, and they're there to address the concerns and so forth. Those are the kinds of options that you can have. Think about how you feel about all those things. Some of the towns, most of the towns do have some kind of control over the number of people that can be present in the rented facility. So a common one is two people per bedroom. Some also add a maximum for the whole house. Some have 6. That would make sense if you have a 3-bedroom house and 2 people per bedroom, I guess, but it's possible somebody might have some old farmhouse that has a lot more rooms than that as well. So there's a little variation on that front. Some people say that it's only to be used for overnight accommodations, meaning that you can't couple it with renting it out for people to have, you know, luncheons or, parties and so forth and so on. It kind of dovetails with the maximum of 2 people per bedroom, right? But the idea there would be, okay, you can rent this out, and you can't have a party with 62 people there and then only 6 people are sleeping there at night either. That's what the people who put that in their code, that's what they're aiming it at. Most have you apply for a permit and have it renewed regularly, frequently, either annually or biannually. And the idea there is that if you have to keep applying for and getting that, if the town has problems with complaints and so forth, the next time around they can just deny the permit and you're done. That's why that's there. There are a number of safety things that different people deal with. Many of them have requirements for fire alarms or extinguishers and evacuation things on the wall so that people who are staying there know how to get out. Some mention sprinkler systems, egresses. They require inspections in order to get the permit in the first place to make sure the place meets all applicable codes and so forth and so on. I think one of the things that I've heard people talking about, particularly people who run actual commercial businesses, is they don't think it's particularly fair that somebody operating a commercial business has to have ADA compliance and all these fire code things and so forth and so on, and somebody who's essentially running a hotel doesn't have to have any of them, the same safety things. It kind of goes to what Al was just talking about this person renting out their farmhouse, and there's no guarantee that people sleeping in a basement in it and have some way to get out of a window, that kind of stuff. So I think we should give some thought to what might be required there. I did ask Ken to look into what's required for actual bed and breakfasts, not Airbnbs, mind you, but bed and breakfast, because the code in Albany treats Airbnbs like they're single-family residents. They do not treat bed and breakfasts like they are. Bed and breakfasts are a business, and they have fire code requirements that are more like what you're used to seeing, which is you have to make sure that you have the appropriate egresses, you have to make sure you have fire monitors and alarms and that kind of stuff. So give it some thought. I think we need something there. I'm not sure exactly how strict it needs to be. I don't think we need to go so far as to say they have to have sprinklers in the house, because that will in effect mean nobody can have it at all, because nobody's going to put in a sprinkler to rent out a bedroom. So we have to think about it, right? Yeah, but my point is the requirements for this in a single family home where you're living there and you're making those decisions are different.
You're right next door, because most of the Airbnbs we ever rented, you're renting the whole house, but people are never there.
But my point is, the building code for a single family code or a single family house presumes that the people living there can make their own decisions about safety. If the house is being rented to other people, then that's different, right? Then the people who are coming there are not making the decision about those safety things, you are. And many people think that the criteria ought to be different. And in my mind, that's why bed and breakfasts have to meet that criteria, right?
It's like renting a hotel with no laws.
Right, and again, I'm not suggesting which way we ought to go. I'm simply saying that's something to think about.
At least the way out.
Many of them have stipulations on how much parking needs to be there, so that people aren't renting the place out. But, people are parking on the neighborhoods, on the neighbor's lawn, and that kind of stuff.
That wasn't even a rent from Airbnb, the one that she's talking about. That was the owner, the guy that was the caretaking. Yes, that was having a party. It wasn't rented out from Airbnb.
Lots of them have to do with noise and hours of arrival. You may remember that we had somebody speaking here at a previous meeting about the fact that people were coming and arriving at 2 o'clock in the morning and not able to find it and all that kind of stuff. So there's references to those things. I put liability insurance. We require liability insurance for all kinds of things in our is that something we ought to do? Some require proof of the Dutchess County hotel occupancy tax. What that is county.
They collect that.
Okay, but they don't have to be on Airbnb in order to have short-term rentals. I mean, the point is, we need if they are going to do this, I think it would be. I'll stray out of saying the things we can consider to what I think we should consider. The county requires them to pay an occupancy tax, and so I think it would be appropriate for us to ensure that they're demonstrating that they're doing that. One town requires, for unhosted, they require them to get a special use permit and actually go through the planning board process, which would be site plan and all that kind of stuff. I put that there because there is a town that does that. I think most of the other ones do not do that.
Who does that?
I can't remember which town it is. Might be Clinton, maybe?
Pretty sure it's Clinton, because I think I worked with that.
But I don't, for example, I don't think Red Hook does that. I don't believe Rhinebeck does that. So it's just something I put on there because somebody had it. And one town limits the total number that they have in the entire town.
First come, first served, huh?
And no, they have an annual lottery.
Wow.
Who does that?
I think it's Rhinebeck, and I think it's the village. I don't think it's the town. I think it's the village.
And
Does
the
that
city,
sound
the
right?
city of Poughkeepsie is gonna be adopting a similar.
Same thing.
Well, those
They have
towns are
15.
popular.
The village limits it to
Destination.
15, and they do it via a lottery system, which, I don't know, seems kind of odd. The thing that I question about the whole lottery thing is, that means that every year, somebody who runs one of these may or may not get it renewed.
Then they'd have to rent it as an apartment.
That might make some sort of sense for the hosted stuff, but for the unhosted, it makes no sense to me at all, because it's really a business. And you're saying, well, you can set this all up, you can buy the property, and you can go through all the regulations you need to set it up as a business, and you may or may not be able to run it next year. Frankly, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
So, I think
So
some of
I'd be more comfortable with first come, first serve if we were gonna actually limit the total number in the town. I think it's more appropriate in the village setting than the town too. Village is a confined area, and they wanna control, I think what they're trying to do is prevent the entire village from becoming a tourist destination with nobody living there. I think that's what they're probably guarding
Rhinebeck has
against, right?
become that. The Clintons got married there, Rhinebeck's become like a tourist destination.
Right, so I think that's what they were guarding against. I'm not sure that I think that applies to us, honestly, but I just want you to be aware of it. So give it some thought, we'll talk about it some more, at,
Thank you,
our next
that's
meeting.
great.
Okay? Anybody else have anything? Anything from the town attorney? Do I have a motion to open for public comment? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Carried? Questions, comments from anybody? Anybody else? You may go.
All right.
David Machia, Town of Lagrange. Got three things. First, thank you for showing us the decision-making process with this work session on Airbnb. It's really nice and good to see that you thought about all this stuff, and the community gets to see that. Second thing is, you mentioned something along the lines of not enforcing the chicken law unless a neighbor complains. I know it's not exactly what you said, but is it possible that we could put that in writing? Something maybe enforcement requires a documented official complaint. It doesn't have to be like that, but.
I'll answer your question
something.
after you're done.
Okay, and then, third thing is congratulations to Anthony on the position in the planning board. I had a question about his position on the planning board. As far as our ethics code goes, it lists a municipal officer or employee, a paid or unpaid officer or employee of the town of Lagrange, including but not limited to members of any municipal board. So does that make him an employee according to our town code, the way that I'm reading it?
If he's a planning board member.
I would let him do his 3 minutes.
That's
Okay, yeah.
all I got. That's all I got.
Right. I'll answer the first question about the chicken law. My observation about not enforcing it if we don't get any complaints was not an observation about the chicken law individually. It was just a realistic description of how zoning law is enforced across the entire town. We do not have a team of people roaming around looking for people violating zoning violations. And so typically, the way we become aware of somebody having a zoning violation is by somebody filing a complaint, and then we act on it. All right, it's not so much that this is going to be an exception to the rule, it's just that from a practical standpoint, that's how zoning violations get enforced, is somebody complains and it brings it to our attention. We investigate to see whether in fact they're violating the law, and if they're violating the law, then we enforce the law. It's not particularly unique to this town, or even zoning law. That's kind of how laws are enforced in a wide variety of ways. Most police are responding to a complaint of some sort, right? They're not typically going to notice somebody breaking into somebody's house. Somebody's going to call the police and say somebody broke into my house, and then they're going to investigate it. And so the same thing would be true. If somebody has chickens on their property, and nobody in their neighborhood cares, and nobody calls us, we're not gonna know about it, and therefore we're not gonna issue a violation because we want to be aware that they're violating it. With respect to the employee,
See,
I don't,
the phrase says municipal officer or employee.
Mhm.
I know I sound like I'm exaggerating, but it seems like that word is getting missed. The definition says a paid or unpaid officer or employee, meaning these are three different concepts. So just because somebody is a municipal or public officer does not also make them an employee.
okay, and they are paid, so, I don't know, my inclination is to think if they're getting paid by the town, they're an employee.
They get paid, do you issue them a W-2 for these boards?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, if they're getting a small stipend,
So,
then
so I think the
that-
answer from the
Not
planning
payroll.
board perspective is they are employees.
Not
because
for
they're being
all
paid.
boards though,
That wouldn't necessarily be true of, say, the CAC, where they don't get paid.
yeah, or the highway committee.
Or the highway committee, or the rec committee, or any of the people who are not. The people who are paid are employees, the people who are not employees. That would be my take. Anything else? We have a motion to close the public comment period. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
In hard copy, but it's,
Make an answer, so it's still
No.
not recommended.
no, it's not. Everybody's taking
We've never done that, so I think it's, I was under the impression that it was a reasonable.
My field looked awesome.
Yes. The reason I think it's.
They're not saying just that.
I
don't know.
If we don't say. But meanwhile, there is a fair amount of effort for people to gather all that stuff, scan it, issue. It's all available
Well, that's why
online.
they submit it
I
electronically.
think everything is electronic, but it's
Yeah.
somebody gathering all together. And by the way, for most people, it's gonna be kind of.
But it's already
Forms you don't really
board
understand.
members, so.
Plans on screen are unreadable, but if that's what it says, it's what it says, okay.
When you get out of here, I mean, there's a strategy here
You need somebody to check it. Make sure you're free. I had a like, listen, because I heard when you get my secretary, she opened, I forwarded an email, I opened it.
Speaking of legalese, hey, you know what's interesting to me?
Uh-huh.
One of my hobbies is
From our
actually.
computer. From our computer.
I actually came that up on somebody's website.
That was my favorite in law school.
And I used to
You don't
read-
find in regular practice.
I read those decisions
Yeah.
and for a really long time. One of the things that amazes me is there are a lot of exceptions, but most of them, you can actually read them. Not impenetrable legal language in most cases. The exceptions are common, when they get into the, when they get into some obscure, commerce law, some technology law, all that kind of stuff, that can be hard to get through. But most of the big cases, you can read it and actually understand what
Yeah,
I think, and the first few times that I read it, I was actually amazed by the fact. Go ahead, thank you.
I emailed you already.
That'd be great, thank you.
I emailed you already the two, and I copied Kelly Gage.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
It
Have a good night.
was amazing to me that I could actually understand. I think the first, ironically, I think the first federal court case I ever read was one in which I was mentioned.
Oh, really?
But not that.
Wait, that wasn't the cell phone?
Verizon cell tower. Yes.
Yeah.
They sued us on an Article 78 for the one on Vermillion. And I was on the planning board chair. And I made the huge mistake of going to a ZBA meeting and standing up and thinking I could comment as a private citizen. And the federal judge did not appreciate it. And somewhat scolded me in the decision. It's funny because it's not like I didn't think it through. I just said, well, I understand I'm a planning board chairman, but I'm also a citizen. I'm entitled to my opinion. And so I went and I commented at the ZBA. I didn't say who I was. And the federal judge said, in her decision, she said, well, he may not have identified himself, but was they knew they were reviewing something in front of the planning board at the time, and it was inappropriate. And I read, it was funny, I read her decision, I went, you know what, she's right, I didn't think this thing through. I just kind of went, yeah, all right, I agree with that. But that's all she had to say about me that was bad. She said, the planning board handled the entire application perfect. And then she talked about how the pothole CGA stepped in is they made their determination and denied their ability to move forward, and didn't provide a final statement of their rationale for the decision. And given that it's FCC law, the federal court didn't think that was at all okay. And I remember I read that and went, if you're gonna actually, this isn't just a random application or a request for a variance. You're talking about something that is subject to FCC law, or you know, the Federal Communications Commission. And the Federal Communications Commission was very specific about saying that these people have a right to put up cell towers, and the town really has control over where, not whether. And so simply denying it without giving a rationale is way over that one. So I read that like,
Depends on if your carrier's on the tower. They're not all on each tower, that's the issue.
And
Most of them hit most of them.
And the other thing that's complicated about that is most towers these days aren't owned by the cell companies anymore. They're operated by independent tower companies who lease out space to whichever carriers they feel like. So that complicates it. If you're trying to figure out whether a particular tower is something you can use, from a practical standpoint, the only way I know how to do it is stand near it and see if there's a signal. I don't know if there's any way to really sort that out.
Yeah, so, you know, they were in front of the ZBA.
Verizon's more or less on every tower in the county.
I think so, yeah. So you're Verizon, yeah.
Where do you get crappy service? Where do you live?
Right, that's the kind of.
I'm surprised. Well, let me put you this way. The tower that's on the top of the hill at Dougherty's property is a Verizon. So if you're not getting a signal out of that, that's like waste.
That is odd, yeah.
That's, I know that as not a KPA, I remember going up.
Yeah, you can pull.
Definitely a Verizon.
Right.
Do you know,
Well, you can't pull the trigger in.
do you have a contact with
So then
George?
just
You need to
trying to
know
say
who
put a
he's,
fire.
you know, because they
You have
filed
more than
a
one?
lawsuit on steroids.
Right.
Well, look at the property, you see them.
Okay.
So, well, we just need to know who his lawyer's gonna be. I mean, they're probably just gonna be along for the ride and a lot of stewards, but we're talking about, you know, briefing schedules and stuff like that.
You all right? Yeah, let me see if I can find out.
It's, no, the Dohertys didn't sue.
Right. So, you know.
The gas station.
You know, there's a car out.
Which, on the last day, we do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to cover that because I don't want to say anything.
It's not a surprise.
What is it?
No, it's not a surprising. All right, I'll find out. I would have been shocked if they didn't, honestly.
I finally sat down and looked at the Spectrum franchise, and I'm gonna get comments.
Okay.
But you know, in the franchise you did in 2019, it has that most favored nation clause already.
We didn't sign anything with Spectrum in 2000.
No, the one with Altice, is that it? Hold on, I have all the documents.
I think. Really? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
This
Time,
is
what time is it?
Altice 4. And.
No, I know, I think it's Chelsea.
Um,
I'm gonna put these in my stuff here. Yeah? What are you gonna do with it?
Chris, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Did you get your mom and dad yet?
I'm gonna go pick them up at the airport tonight.
Oh, awesome.
It's land at 11:30.
Yeah, that's okay though.
All right, enjoy.
This says that we are promising not to give more favorable terms to somebody else. And if we do, then they can petition us in writing to get the same thing that the other people did. The one that Spectrum has
Oh, you
says
don't like it
they
because it's
automatically get it.
Okay, so that's the.
Check that, because